Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be showing you guys what is in my spice cabinet. So I feel like everyone is in a different place in their cooking journey. And I know that when I first started cooking, I really had no idea what I was doing. But I definitely had a strong passion and a strong desire to get better at it and learn more about it and to improve my own cooking skills. So I watched lots of cooking videos, I read cookbooks all the time, and I'm pretty much 100% self-taught cook. I'm not a trained chef by any means. I've never been to any kind of cooking school, but I have been cooking for about 20 years now, and I definitely know a lot more now than I did when I started. And honestly, I learn something new almost every single time that I cook. So cooking is one of those things that it's not like a destination. It's definitely a journey, and there's definitely always new things to learn. I think one of the most important things that I learned along the way was how to properly season food and how to use herbs and spices. This, in my opinion, is the difference between making good food and making great food, is knowing how to properly season and knowing how to use those herbs and spices to your advantage. When your food is well seasoned, people really notice, and they may not notice, like they may not be able to like put their finger on it, like what is it about it that makes it different, but they'll be like, you know, what is that? Why does this taste so much better than if I were to make it? And it's just kind of like that thing that makes them go, what that is knowing how to use herbs and spices correctly and knowing how to season correctly, because that is what makes good food great. So if you're a person who is new to cooking, or you feel like you've kind of hit like a brick wall in your own cooking experience and you're just looking to kind of step up your game, definitely having a well-stocked spice cabinet and actually a well-stocked kitchen in general is always a good idea and is definitely a great first step. Now I realize that it's probably not realistic to just like go out and buy all of these things. But what I do, and I don't even have everything that I want or need, I don't think, but I do have a lot, and I do have a lot of the basic essentials. So what I do is whenever I go to the grocery store, I always go down the spice aisle and I always look to see, first of all, what is on sale, and if there's something there that I need that, you know, I just haven't bought before. There's a whole different wide range of prices when it comes to buying spices. Some of them are very expensive and others are, you know, $1 or maybe $2. But the good thing is that they do last a while. And so it is like an investment into a collection. It's not something that you're going to use just like 1 or 2 times. You're going to get a lot of use out of it. So as I go through the different spices, I'm going to prioritize like the ones that I use the most often and the ones that I, in my opinion, are more like staples, and then the ones that maybe you guys can just kind of get as you can. But I'm going to try to keep it to about 10 that are just things that I think that if you have these in your kitchen, you can make a very wide range of different dishes with these spices. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started because I could definitely sit here and talk about this all day long. And please let me know in the comments, what are some of your favorite spices, and maybe, you know, how do you guys use some of these spices that I'm talking about? Like I said, there's always more to learn, and we learn from each other. That's how we, you know, come up with new ideas and new recipes and things like that. So basically I've broken my spices down into 4 categories. The first one is spices themselves, like powdered spices. The second one is dried herbs. The third category is flavor enhancers. And then the fourth category is my chili collection, which isn't a lot of different things, but with Mexican cooking, which is my favorite food to cook, you definitely want to have a good supply of chilies on hand. And I'm going to just start with the spices. Okay, so the first spice I'm going to talk about is cinnamon. So cinnamon is an interesting spice because it can be used sweet or savory. If it's added to something that is sweet, that has like sugar or honey or something like that, then it's going to take on a more sweet flavor. But a lot of like long cooking sauces and things like that actually call for cinnamon as well. And it's not really one of those things that you'd be able to go, and you shouldn't be able to say, oh wow, there's cinnamon in this, you know. It's just kind of one of those things that helps to create new flavors. So when you're cooking, I think the most important thing, a lot of times, unless it's, you know, you're supposed to distinctly taste one thing over another, the whole point of it is to put a bunch of different flavors together to kind of create a new flavor. And so if you can pinpoint different things, then maybe you are going a little heavy-handed, or maybe you need to just kind of adjust your recipe a little bit. So I have ground cinnamon, and then I also have these cinnamon sticks. These I would use more for like, you know, apple cider or like a potpourri kind of a thing, just to kind of make, these are like more aromatic. Let's see what it says. So it says spiced apple juice, use a cinnamon stick as a stirrer for a cup of coffee or hot chocolate or in a tea. So you can also like grate this fresh, like on some kind of a grater or something if you didn't have any powdered cinnamon and you needed some cinnamon. Cinnamon is really good for you. It's really good to add into oatmeal, smoothies, cakes, pies, pretty much anything that's sweet. And then I also have my cinnamon sticks that I bought, the Fiesta brand. And these are the Mexican quality cinnamon sticks, and these are the ones that I use when I make like my red sauces, enchilada sauce, and things like that. So these are great. Those are my 3 cinnamon things I have. I have these cinnamon sticks here, these ones, and the other thing that I noticed about this Fiesta brand, and maybe it's because simply they come in bags, this brand of spices is generally much more affordable than some of the other brands. So when it comes to certain things, you know, generic brands can be maybe not quite as good, but honestly, a lot of times the generic brands are just as good as regular brands, and sometimes they're even better. So I do have a lot of things that I actually prefer the generic brand. Okay, so the next one is pumpkin pie spice. So this one is really great to have, especially right now around this time of year, around the holidays. You can use it obviously to make pumpkin pie. If you guys are using, like making any kind of pumpkin breads or cookies, it's really good in that. I really like, I've been making pumpkin breads lately, and so that's what I've been using it for. But it has a blend of ingredients, which is cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, and cloves. So this is a really good sweet spice to add to things. And again, you could add this to a cider, you could add it into a smoothie. It goes really good with sweet potatoes, different things like that. So the next spice that I want to show you guys is paprika. Now paprika, you can see I have a big old huge one of these. So paprika can be used in so many different ways. First of all, it has a really vibrant red color. You can use this to make your own barbecue spice blend. You can use it to make your own taco seasonings, a Cajun seasoning. So if you guys have a lot of blended seasonings like that, a lot of times there's a lot of salt in those, and so it's better if you buy whole seasonings like this, and then you just kind of create your own blends of different things. So you could use this in a chili seasoning, steak seasoning, a lot of different things, sprinkled on some deviled eggs. I mean, paprika is super versatile. It's definitely going in one of my top 10 staple ingredients. And then another one that is really good to go in a lot of those things I just mentioned is chili powder. So you definitely want to have a good chili powder on hand. This is something that I use all the time. Again, I have one of the big ones here, and I've just kind of been slowly, now that I've been cooking a little bit more often, I've just been kind of slowly, every time I run out of something, I buy one of these bigger ones just because I've been going through spices so fast. And it's definitely a lot more affordable to do it this way. Again, you can use chili powder in a chili seasoning. You can use it in a lot of Mexican cooking. Same thing with paprika. Paprika has a nice like smoky flavor to it. And then barbecue sauces, barbecue rubs, Cajun seasonings, taco seasonings, things like that. I don't know if I'd put it in my top 10, but I'm gonna put it right next to it. The next one is ground mustard. It doesn't really have a lot of flavor on its own. It's kind of a flavor enhancer also, but I put it into the spice category because that's what it is. And so it brings on sort of a tanginess to like cheese sauces, macaroni and cheese. You definitely want to have this for that. Any kind of like buttery sauces, steak sauces, a lot of cream sauces and things like that. And again, it's not going to make anything like taste like mustard, but it is going to enhance the flavor and add a little bit of a little zing and a little extra oomph to whatever you're making. And then it also has that nice yellow color. So this is definitely not one of your 10 staple spices though. All right, and the next one is cumin. So this is one that I buy in this Fiesta brand because it's just a little bit cheaper and it's a good size. It's nice and big. Cumin is something that I've noticed that not a lot of people like this spice. I can see why. It has kind of a smelly smell to it. It's kind of stinky, but it definitely adds a lot of flavor, and it's definitely something that you really need to have around if you make a lot of like taco seasonings and things like that. I use this a lot when I'm cooking like ground beef or just like beef for tacos or burritos or something like that. So this, if you guys buy those taco packet seasoning things, again, those have a lot of salt in them, and you can make your own taco seasonings at home. And one of the main ingredients in those is going to be cumin, chili powder, and then paprika. So definitely want to keep this around. I would say this is one of the more important ones. So, and that's if you're cooking this type of food. It really depends on what kind of food you're cooking. You know, I don't cook like a lot of, for example, Indian food, so I don't have a lot of like Indian type spices around. So again, if you guys want to recommend spices to me in recipes, I would love it. All right, and then the next one is sesame seeds. So sesame seeds, if you guys like to cook a lot of Asian type cooking, this is where they come in the most handy for me. But they are just a great thing to just kind of sprinkle on as like a garnish. They add a very nutty type of a flavor to whatever you're cooking. You can toast these to enhance the flavor, and if you do that, you definitely want to do it on a medium-low heat, and you want to keep your eye on them and just kind of keep them moving because they are a seed. They have oil in them, and they can burn and kind of become like a rancid taste pretty quickly. So if you guys are going to toast your sesame seeds, definitely keep that in mind. But these, I go through sesame seeds pretty quickly. You can sprinkle these on cereal, you could sprinkle them in like a parfait, add them into a smoothie. Like I said, you could put them on top of, I used them for some chicken wings I made the other day. Anything with like a soy, ginger type of a flavor, these are gonna go really, really good with that. And then that brings me to my next spice that I actually just bought the other day, and I've only used it once, but I really like it. And it's everything bagel seasoning. So this has sesame seeds in it as well, but it also has poppy seeds, onion, garlic, and a salt. So it says poppy seeds, sesame seeds, onion, garlic, and salt. So that was it. But yeah, you can sprinkle this onto pretty much anything. What I did with it, because I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this, you know, I made some garlic bread, and I used this rather than using like garlic or any other type of seasoning. I just sprinkled this on there, and it was like an everything garlic bread, and it was really, really good. It worked out really good. This is very salty, so keep that in mind if you're going to use it, that you want to kind of see where you're at with the salt before adding any extra salt to this, because it is a pretty salty spice. But other than that, I give this one a big thumbs up. All right, and then the next one is I have some whole cloves here. So I don't use this type of flavoring very much unless I'm making like pie or something like that, pumpkin pie, pumpkin breads, things like that, but I have my pumpkin pie seasoning for that. So I have these cloves for my Mexican dishes, for my Mexican sauces and things like that. And so these are just great to keep on hand. You can see I just have them in a little bag here. This is another brand. This is another thing that's going to be a lot more affordable if you buy it in this Fiesta brand. And you could save maybe one of your old spice jars and just put them in there, or get a little jar, or just keep them like I have them in this bag. It works out just fine. All right, and then the next thing is cayenne pepper. So cayenne pepper is basically strictly for heat. I don't really think there's a lot of flavor going on with this, but it is very hot, and it is going to add a lot of heat to anything that you add this into. So if you are a person that likes to make things spicy, you can add this into pretty much anything, and it's going to give it a big kick. So be careful with it. Know what you're doing when you're using it. Try not to get it on your hands, and don't touch your eyes. But other than that, cayenne pepper is a great way to add that heat. If you guys want to put it in salsas or soups or stews or, you know, sauces, any of your Mexican dishes, if you guys want to add a little bit of extra heat, the cayenne pepper is going to do really, really well for that. Okay, so I'm down to my last three spices. The first one is onion powder. So onion powder is definitely one of the top 10. If you don't have anything else, having onion powder and I'm gonna give you guys a top 5 as well. Onion powder is one of those things that even if you're using onions, onion powder and real onions have a different type of flavor. And so even if you're adding onions to something, I always add onion powder as well. So onion powder is not only going to enhance your onion flavor, but it's going to be a really good seasoning for honestly pretty much anything. I use onion powder in almost every single thing that I make. And I just wanted to show you guys real quick because I bought this one. I don't like this one. This one is this I got at Walmart. It was $1. So that's another good thing about it. And you can see it's more of like a, I don't know, this one's like a literal powder, like texture wise. This is like a baby powder type of a thing, and it's got a very strong onion flavor. And I don't know, maybe that's a good thing. I'm just used to this one. I like this one a lot better. For me, it's a little bit easier to control. And like I said, I'm just so used to this one that this is the one that I prefer to use. You know, it's always available. You can always find this at Walmart, and it's always super cheap. So this is, I have this one as like my backup. And then the same thing goes for my garlic powder. So again, I have this one that I just got at Walmart. They're $1, and it has the exact same type of a texture as the onion powder. And again, this is one of those things that if you have nothing else, garlic powder, onion powder are going to be two of your things that these are staples. These are things that as long as you have these on hand, you are going to be successful in creating a flavorful dish. Now, I have this granulated garlic, and again, I just don't like it as much. I like this one a lot better. I prefer this one, but I do have this on hand just in case I run out of this, or, you know, if I need it, if something calls specifically for granulated garlic, this one is better for me. So those ones are going in the top 10. I wanted to save this one for last, but since I'm doing the spices first, I'm going to show you guys that right now. This is my 100% most favorite spice in the entire world. So it's this garlic pepper. Have you guys watched any of my videos? I do cooking tutorials if this is the first video you've seen. I use this also in almost every single thing that I make. Literally, people are probably like, wow, you know, real creative. Well, guess what? This is a great spice. So for some reason, I have not been able to find this in the grocery store for literally months now. I don't know what's happening, but you can get it on Amazon. And there are other brands of this. The Fiesta brand does make garlic pepper as well, but I much prefer this brand, McCormick, because it has less salt, and I just really, really like the flavor for it. This is a very versatile spice to have on hand, and this is something that if you guys have, this is my number one. If you only can get one thing, get this. You'll be good to go. So that's going right in the top 10. And you guys, you know, maybe you'll like this one a little bit better. For me, I just don't like to have spices that have added salt, because I really like to be able to be in control of that and just kind of be in control of how much salt is in all of my dishes. And so for me, and that one has salt in it as well, but it's just, it doesn't taste as salty as this one. This one adds a lot of salt in there. So, but if this is the only one that you guys can find, it's great. Just keep that in mind that it is saltier, and so you might want to always taste things as you're going, just to make sure that you're not over salting, because you can always put more, but you can't take it out. So that is a very good thing to remember whenever you are cooking. Let's see, I think that is it for my spices. So I'm gonna go ahead and just let you guys know really quickly, there are a lot of other herbs and stuff that I'm gonna show you guys, but with all of these things that I just showed you, you can make your own barbecue rubs, barbecue sauces, Italian seasoning, poultry seasoning, steak seasoning, taco seasoning, and Cajun seasonings. So all of those blended seasonings, like I said, a lot of times they have things in them that maybe you don't want. As long as you have these kind of staple ingredients, you can create all of those other seasonings just as you need them. So there's no need to buy the package seasonings anymore and things like that, because all that stuff does is adds, you know, more salt and stuff to your dishes. So it's definitely always good to, you know, keep that in mind, because you need to be health conscious as well. It's very important, the things that you're putting inside of your bodies. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about my dried herbs. It's always good to use fresh herbs. but a lot of times you either can't find fresh herbs. A lot of times I'll go to the store and the herbs just really look bad, or I just can't find them. They just don't have them there. And so having dried herbs on hand is very, very good. It adds a lot of flavor into your dishes. The difference between fresh herbs and dry herbs, and this is not true for every single herb, but for like parsley, cilantro, basil, things like that, the softer herbs, you want to add those type of herbs at the very end of cooking, or as like a sprinkle on top. Whereas dried herbs, you want to add them at the beginning of cooking because it's going to give them time to enhance those flavors and to really bring the flavors out of the herbs. So that's just a good thing to keep in mind. I'm gonna just talk about this one first just because it's actually not really an herb. It's, I guess it would be more of a spice, I'm not sure, but it's just minced onion. This is actually something that I don't use that much, but it is good to have on hand if you don't have any onions. I always have onions on hand because I just cook a lot that way. But having minced onion is a good substitute, so to keep this on hand is probably a good idea. It's probably not a staple, especially if you have the onion powder, but I'm showing you guys everything I have, so I wanted to include that. The next one is celery seed. So celery seed is something that you guys can add to soups, sauces, stews, anything like that. It's going to bring that like celery type of a flavor. Even if you're using fresh celery, add a little bit of this in and that will just enhance those flavors for you. So this is one that I don't use often, but I like having this on hand. Dill. So dill is one of those things also that I would probably, if you were gonna buy this fresh, I would probably add this more towards the end of a cooking process. If you add fresh herbs in too soon, they can just turn black and like literally all the flavor will just be completely gone. And kind of the point of fresh herbs is to just brighten things up and bring that little bit of like life to your dish. And so you definitely want them to be more alive. Dried herbs, like I said, you want to add those more towards the beginning. Dill is something you guys can add, you know, into seafood, tuna salad, salad dressings, potato salad. It goes really, really good with seafood, tomatoes, salads. I mean, it's pretty versatile too, and it's got a pretty distinct taste to it. So you definitely want to know what you're doing with dill and know that you like it if you're going to start using dill in your recipes. And then this is dried cilantro. Now, I always have fresh cilantro in my house because I cook a lot of Mexican food and it's just kind of one of my favorite things to have around. I much prefer fresh cilantro to dried cilantro, but I do have this. This is, again, one of these Fiesta brand seasonings that comes in the bag. And so it wasn't that expensive, so I just grabbed it one day just in case I just needed it. And I haven't really used it that much, but it's one of those things that's good to have on hand. And then the next one is Cumin Seeds. So this is cumin, but that was ground cumin and this is the seeds. Having the whole seeds just adds kind of a little bit more fresh tasting than using the pre-ground cumin. And again, this is this Fiesta brand that comes in this bag, and I just keep all of mine in plastic bags and then I put all of these bags inside of another bag and just kind of keep them all tucked away. Bay leaves definitely are one of my top 10. Bay leaves are great for any type of long cooking, such as a stew, a soup, a sauce, anything like that. You want to have these bay leaves on hand. So these add a lot of really good flavor. And this brand, the Fiesta brand that comes in this bag, bay leaves are a lot cheaper than the other brands of bay leaves, and they are the exact same thing. So don't let that fancy packaging trick you guys. The next one is crushed red pepper. So I don't make things spicy a lot just because I do have 3 kids. They don't really like spicy food that much, but this is something that I like to have on hand just in case I need it. And I really like it for the like pepper flake effect that it has in things. So barbecue sauces, any kind of sauces, sprinkled on pizza is really good. Crushed red pepper is just something I think it's one of those things that like almost everybody has for whatever reason. Anytime you're using dried herbs like this, you want to go ahead and kind of like crush them up with your hands to just kind of like get them going and release some of the flavors and the oils in those. So, all right. And then the next one is marjoram. So marjoram is used in a lot of Italian seasonings, Italian cooking, things like that. It can also be used as a poultry seasoning, but this is not an herb that I use that often, but I definitely have it on hand. It's not one of those things that you need to rush out and get right away. But, you know, if you get to the place where you're collecting them, and I would grab one of these for sure. Really good for Italian food, red sauces, and things like that. And again, because this is a dried herb, you want to just kind of crush it with your fingers. All right, and then the next one is rosemary. Rosemary is really, really delicious. Rosemary has a very tough kind of a texture. And so you want to be sure, if you're going to be cooking with dried rosemary, that you get this in and you get it going right away. It's a really good idea if you're using something that's not long cooking to try to get your hands on some fresh rosemary, because it's going to be just a much better texture for you. It has sort of a piney type of a flavor, very like floral. It says on here that it will bring a bold, piney flavor to beef lamb stews and baked goods. And then this is also another staple ingredient in a Italian or poultry seasoning. All right, and then parsley. So I would guess parsley is one of those things that most people have. For me, it doesn't really add a lot of flavor, but it definitely adds that nice green speckly color. Whenever I'm making garlic bread, I like to sprinkle this on top of that. If you guys were making a steak seasoning or an Italian seasoning, this is really good for that. But for me, fresh parsley is way better. Like I said, dried parsley is going to be more of like an aesthetic thing than a big flavor enhancer. It's a mild flavor when it's dried like this. That goes the same with basil. So I have the dried basil, but I don't use it that often. I honestly don't cook Italian food that much, but I very, very much prefer fresh basil to dried basil. But to have this on hand, if you guys are in a pinch and you guys are trying to just make food and not have to make a trip to the grocery store, because fresh herbs do go bad a lot faster. And so I really like to have these just in case, like, I can't get to the store and I can't get fresh basil. Having said that, there are some recipes that there is no substitution for fresh basil, and you do have to make that trip to get your basil. The next one is thyme. Again, great for Italian seasonings, great for Mexican food. There's a lot of thyme in Mexican dishes. Thyme is one of those things that you are going to use a lot of, and I do have one of these big ones, and I just got this because I did run out. This is one of those top 10 staple ingredients. So sage is, again, for Italian seasonings, poultry seasoning, things like that. But sage is really good. Anytime I cook mushrooms, I like to add a little bit of sage on them, and not so much that you can go, you know, these taste like sage, just enough to kind of like enhance the flavor of the mushrooms. I'm not sure why, but I just really, really like sage with mushrooms. Another thing I add this to is my sausage. Whenever I make breakfast sausage, I make biscuits and gravy a lot, and actually people really rave about my gravy. And the funny thing is that I put sage in it and nobody even knows that it's in there. I have kind of a little story about sage. So I had a few gentlemen over at my house one day. We were having a meeting and I made them breakfast and I made biscuits and gravy, and all of them just raved about how good the biscuits and gravy was. They just gave me a lot of compliments about the gravy, and someone commented that biscuits and gravy, like finding really good biscuits and gravy, is so hard to do. And then we kind of started talking about this restaurant that has, you know, pretty good biscuits and gravy, and he said, but it has so much sage in it and I just don't like that. And I just kind of smiled inside because I knew that I added sage into my gravy, but he had no idea that it was in there. And that is what I mean. You don't necessarily want to be able to go, oh, this has a lot of sage in it. You know, I can really taste the sage, but it just kind of enhances flavors of things. And if you're using your spices correctly and your herbs correctly, that is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be a flavor enhancer and something that is going to assist in making a whole new flavor. And that's actually my secret ingredient for my biscuits and gravy. And then the very last dried herb that I have, and my absolutely most favorite, definitely you will need to have this on hand at all times, especially if you make a lot of Mexican food or Italian food, is oregano. So oregano is fantastic. It is one of those things that I use in so many different dishes. It adds really great flavor. And it's definitely one of those things that you want to keep on hand at all times. Cajun seasonings, steak sauces sometimes, Italian seasonings, taco seasonings, chili, and then also poultry seasonings. So definitely get some oregano if you don't have any. And that wraps up the dried herb section of my spice cabinet. So now I'm gonna move on to things that are more flavor enhancers. A lot of them are like salty and different types of salt, but just kind of things that are just like, you know, enhance the flavor of things, not necessarily an herb or a spice. Let me just start with my celery salt. Celery salt is great to add to Bloody Marys, red beers, micheladas, and just pretty much any type of tomato type sauces or anything like that. The celery salt is going to be a really great enhancer for that. Do keep in mind it's salty. And so I don't usually like to use flavored salts because I really like using my own kosher salt to season things that way. We do like to drink red beers in my house, and so this is something that I just recently started adding to those, and that is why I have it, but I really like it, and I'm excited to see what else I can use this for. And then the next one is garlic salt. So again, I do not like to use garlic salt that much. The garlic powder and the regular salt is just better, because it's just easier to kind of control the garlic to the salt ratio. Because when you're just putting garlic salt in, if you want it to taste more garlicky but you're not trying to add more salt, this is gonna kind of throw you off. And so this is definitely not one of my favorite spices I have, but I do have it on hand. Like I said, it's great on popcorn, and it's great as kind of like a seasoning on top of different things. And if you guys like it, you know, by all means use it. This is totally my opinions and my, you know, way of cooking and things that I do. And then the next one, tahini, is really delicious. It's very tangy. And tahini is one of those things that you can put on fruit. Like, it's kind of sour and has like a really like salty sour kind of a taste. And so it's really good in any type of like tomato type drinks, you know, Bloody Marys, things like that. It's really good with mango. It's great with watermelon, cantaloupe, anything like that. So tahini is just one of those things that I really like to have, just to kind of add a little bit of flavor onto things. It's actually used in a lot of like Mexican candies and things like that too. So if you guys have never tried tahini, I would definitely pick one of these up. All right, and then another one that I don't really use that often is lemon pepper. The reason I don't use this that much is because I always have fresh lemons on hand, and I definitely prefer a fresh lemon taste to an artificial lemon taste. But if you guys like to cook a lot of seafood and things like that, this is a really good thing to have on hand. I use this in when I make like tuna salad, and it works really good in that. But again, I would probably use a fresh lemon in most circumstances. But for some reason, like every time I've been in anyone's kitchen ever, they always have lemon pepper, and I swear to God, some people season everything with this stuff. So if you guys like it, more power to you. For me, this one goes into the back of my cabinet and it doesn't get pulled out that much. You definitely need to have some vanilla. So I'm gonna make a separate video about like baking staples, things like that you're gonna wanna have for if you do a lot of baking. But vanilla is one of those things that's definitely a flavor enhancer. So I wanted to add this in. So anything that you make that is sweet, drop a few drops of vanilla in there, and it's going to enhance that flavor for you. So smoothies, milkshakes, even if you're drinking like a vanilla milkshake, add vanilla into the vanilla milkshake, and it will help it taste more vanilla-y, so it enhances the flavor and the sweetness of things. And then the next one is liquid smoke. So liquid smoke is awesome. This is something that you can use to make barbecue sauce. Anytime you want to have any kind of a smoky flavor, in like the dead of winter, if you guys are craving barbecue, liquid smoke is going to help you to add that smoky taste that you would get from your grill. It's a really good thing to keep on hand. Let's see what it says. Cooking sauce for easy oven barbecuing and charcoal broiling. So there you go. Dash or brush on steaks, chicken, hamburgers, or hot dogs before cooking for a tangy outdoor smoky flavor. It's excellent for seasoning soups, gravies, sauces, baked beans, salads, dips, oysters, eggs, fish, poultry, or whatever smoke flavor is desired. The one thing I will tell you guys about this is it is very strong tasting. So literally drops, okay? Drops at a time, because you can always add more. You can't take it out, and you don't want to add too much. But if you've never made your own barbecue sauce, definitely try this out. The next one, Margarita Salt. So this I keep strictly for my red beers. If you guys watch my videos often, you will see that I absolutely love red beer, something that I drink all the time, and I actually just started using this for my beers. So anytime you guys are making like margaritas or anything that you want to rim your glass with, this is just a very large coarse salt. So it's good salt to kind of like sprinkle on top as like a garnish. You could even use this on like steaks and things like that too, because it has that, it's gonna give you that like crunchy salt texture. The next one is kosher salt. So I love, love, love kosher salt. I never, ever, ever have iodized salt in my house. I do think that iodized salt is okay, but if you are properly seasoning your food, there is absolutely no reason for anyone to add salt to your food. It's almost like an insult sometimes when somebody asks me for salt because I know that I've seasoned it and they do not need to add salt. Maybe that's just me being controlling, probably, but so I don't have salt on hand. I don't have table salt. I don't have iodized salt. I just don't have it. I do want to start learning how to make tortillas and tamales and things like that, and I know that those recipes do call for iodized salt, so I might have to get some, but I will just get a teeny tiny one because I use kosher salt in literally every single thing that I make. If you guys have never used kosher salt before, I definitely recommend giving it a shot. It is also a bigger, coarser grain of salt, so it is a little bit easier to control the saltiness, and it has a little bit of a better salt flavor. And then gotta have your pepper. I got my little pepper grinder here. Again, if you guys watch my videos a lot, this thing is kind of like a little star in my videos because I have this all the time. Maybe I'll get a new one for Christmas because I've had this one for a really long time and I love it and it works and it's not broken or anything, but it's always fun to have new stuff. But whole black peppercorns is a great thing to keep around. These can be a little bit more expensive, so definitely look for these when they're on sale, or try to, when you have a little bit of extra money, just grab a big one of these. And I would definitely recommend investing in a pepper grinder. Pre-ground pepper just does not compare to fresh ground pepper. I do not have pre-ground pepper in my house, and I have not had it in my house for years. I always use this, and it's really simple, and it just cracks right out. No biggie. It's not that hard to use. And a powdery pepper, I don't know, for me, it's just not the same. Okay, so my last three flavor enhancers that I have are my bouillons. I have my tomato and chicken bouillon. This is used in a lot of Spanish rice, red sauces, anything with tomatoes. This is going to enhance that tomato flavor as well as add salt. So if you guys are using bouillons to season things, just remember that they are very salty. And so again, add the bouillon first, give it a taste, and then determine whether or not you need to add more salt to that because these have a high salt content. So I have a little one of these because I don't use this very often. I never make Spanish rice. I just don't make rice that often. I don't know why. And then the other one is my beef bouillon. So as you can see, I got a big old giant one of these. This one I do use a little bit more. And anytime you guys are making anything with beef in it, this is going to enhance that flavor for you. So whenever I do ground beef, I always add a tablespoon of this in. Anything with stew, any kind of beef stew, anything that has beef in it, this is going to add flavor to your beef. So this is a great thing to have on hand. These bouillons are something that I would definitely have on hand all the time. And you guys can start small. Just buy these little ones. They were maybe $2, $3 at the store. You want to go to the Mexican food section to find these. That's the only place that I've ever been able to find them. So I'm just gonna hold this up so you guys can see how big this one is. Is my chicken bouillon, which I use the most. This is probably one of my most favorite things. This is definitely a part of my top 10. I've gone through many of these, and I buy this big one at Sam's, and it's probably about $8 or $9, but it's definitely worth it, and I definitely get a lot of use out of it. And this is gonna add really great flavor to pretty much everything that you guys make. So seasoning with stocks and bouillons and things like that, even if you're just cooking rice or potatoes or anything, you know, anything that you cook in water, if you guys add some kind of bouillon to that, it's just gonna add flavor to whatever you're making. So this is top 10, definitely grab yourself. And if you can only buy one of the three, get the chicken one. All right, and that is all of my flavor enhancing things that are in my spice cabinet. So the last thing I have to show you guys is my chili collection. So about 10 months ago, right around the beginning of quarantine, is when I really started getting into watching YouTube. and I started to watch all of these different cooking videos and things like that, and I started to learn how to make more authentic type of Mexican dishes. And so I cooked Mexican food for weeks and weeks and weeks straight, and I just got really into it, and it was just something that I really like to do. And so I started to build up my little chili collection here, because these are all staples when it comes to making Mexican food. These are things that you guys should always keep on hand as well. You'll never need to buy canned enchilada sauce again. You guys can whip these sauces up in no time. These are great to make homemade salsas with. The first one I'm going to show you guys is my New Mexico chili pots. So I was fortunate enough to be able to find this big giant bag of these at the store the other day. For me, where I live, these are kind of hard to find. So every time I go to the store, I check to see if they have these available. And then if they do, I always just grab a bag of them, because they are dried chilies, and not to say that they can't go bad, because they can, but they definitely have a longer shelf life than fresh chilies. So these are really great to have, and these are good for enchilada sauces, any type of stews, like I said, salsas and things like that. A lot of these dried chilies don't have like big spicy flavors. They just add a lot of flavor to things. And again, you guys look, whenever you're in the store where they have the spices, they always have like kind of on the, you know, side, they have all like the spices, all of the like American brands and whatever. And then they have all of the Mexican spices. And usually, in my stores anyway, the spices are all together, but then they also have like a separate Mexican section where you can sometimes find things. So check in both areas. If you guys are having a hard time finding stuff, sometimes you can go back and forth and find them in different areas. This one, I don't have the label for it, but these are Pastilla Chilies. And again, these are just great to have on hand. They're dried, so they stay fresh for a very long time. And you can make a lot of different dishes with those. And then I have my anchos, my Ancho Chilis. These are dried poblanos, so they're not very spicy. Poblano peppers are fantastic. So again, you guys, these are just great to have on hand, green sauces and things like that. And then I have my chili de Arbols, and these ones are spicy. So these ones are great if you guys, these, just keep in mind that these ones have that spice. So when you're making salsas and stuff like that, if you guys want the salsas to be a little bit more spicy, throw a couple of these in there, and they are definitely going to be nice and spicy for you. One thing about dried chilies is you do need to rehydrate them. And the way that I do this is I just put them in a pot. You want to rinse them off. A lot of times they can have like dust and things like that on them, so you definitely want to rinse those off. Put them in a pot, bring them up to a boil, turn it off, and then just let them kind of sit in the water, and they will get soft for you in about 10 to 15 minutes. So, and then the very last chili that I have are my Wahia Chilis. So these are the easiest to find. These are super delicious. Red enchilada sauce. These go in the birria. Birria is a huge thing right now. It's something that's been really popular for probably about a year now, since I've been hearing about it. So if you guys are looking to make anything like that, enchilada sauce, things like that, sauce for tamales, pretty much any type of red sauce that they use in any type of Mexican cooking, more than likely they have some kind of dried chilies in them, and probably these Wahias. So I have them in their very own separate bag. All right, and then I had two more things that I didn't really feel like they went into a category, but I wanted to show them to you because I'm showing you everything that I got. So I do have one seasoning blend. This is a roasted garlic and herb seasoning. I have it and I use it. I just kind of use it on chicken and things like that. But I just wanted to show you guys real quick. So it has garlic, salt, spices, no idea what that means, dried sweet pepper, and then natural flavors. So again, if you guys look at, let's say, the basil, the ingredients in the basil is basil. That's it. So any type of a whole ingredients are always going to be better than if they have added salts, added things. I mean, other flavors, other natural flavors. Like, what does that mean? What is in this, you know? So I don't know. For me, I just really like to know what is in stuff. And then I have some citric acid, and this is used in canning to help preserve things, but I use it to create sour sugar. So if you guys, if you do like to drink smoothies or anything like that, this is really fun to, if you guys make some sour sugar, you can kind of like rim your glass with it. You could do the same thing with like sweet margaritas, smoothies. I use it to make sour gummies sometimes. So this is something that if you guys want to buy this, it's usually not with the spices, but more so with the canning supplies, and it is very sour, so definitely be careful when you're using that. So a real quick rundown here of all of the things that, if you guys can only get some things, these are the things that I recommend that you get. So parsley. Even though I said this does not have tons of flavor in it, it does create a very nice aesthetic in any of your dishes, that nice little bright green flakiness, or you can use it as a garnish to top things with. So parsley is one of those things that if you don't already have it, just grab it. It's not that expensive, and you can kind of throw it into everything if that kind of thing is important to you. But remember, eating is a feast with your eyes first, so making things look pretty is definitely important. The next two are thyme and oregano. Fantastic herbs to have around, very versatile. You can use these in a lot of different things, add big flavors, and also inexpensive. The next one is smoked paprika. So paprika is another thing that you guys can put in a lot of different dishes. It adds that really nice bright red color. And it's just something that's really, really good to have around. I use this more often than a lot of the other spices that I have. The chicken bouillon, fantastic to have around. Definitely grab some of this next time you're at the store. Possibly a top 5 for the chicken bouillon. If you guys make a lot of Mexican foods and things like that, you definitely want to have some cumin or cumin seeds around. You guys might not think of this as seasonings, but obviously you gotta have salt and pepper. If you have nothing else, have salt and pepper. Having a better quality salt rather than iodized salt is going to make a big difference. And having fresh ground pepper, using peppercorns, is also going to make a big difference. So these are two things that, if there is only 2 things in your spice cabinet, make sure it's salt and pepper. Seems like it might be a given. It seems like it might be something that you don't need to say, but you never know. Garlic powder and onion powder, another 2 things that you guys definitely want to have. If you have nothing else, these are going to add lots and lots of flavor, especially paired with your salt and pepper. And then my number 1 top favorite spice and recommendation that you should have on hand at all times is the garlic pepper. I use this in almost every single savory dish that I cook. It adds great flavor. It does have it is sort of a blend, like I was talking about, I don't like. But for some reason, I don't know, I'm just very, very obsessed with this spice right now. And it's really just never disappointed me. So it says it has garlic, salt, black pepper, brown sugar, onion, red bell pepper, parsley, and garlic oil. That is everything that I have in my spice cabinet, you guys, and there are so many other kitchen staples that are really important to have around, especially if you guys are just trying to kind of come up with dishes and get things done without having to run to the grocery store a lot, and I will definitely bring those up in future videos. But having a well-stocked spice cabinet and a well-stocked kitchen in general is really going to set you up for success in the kitchen and when you're cooking. In my opinion, cooking is an expression of love. By feeding and nourishing people, you are actually showing them that you care about them and that you care about the things that they're putting inside of their bodies. And I honestly feel like it is a very natural way to show love in probably one of the most purest forms. And it's also extremely rewarding. It always makes me feel really good when people get excited and, you know, talk about how good that something was and, you know, brag about my food to people. And I just really enjoy feeding people. I really enjoy having people over. And it's just something that I have a huge passion for. Like I said, I am 100% self-taught and I'm constantly learning new things. And I definitely appreciate all the people that are out there teaching recipes and doing cooking tutorials, because I'm learning a lot from you guys, and I hope that you guys can learn something from me too. And it always feels good when people show gratitude to you for making them an excellent meal. It's just a very positive and loving exchange of energy. And especially when it comes to feeding your family and your children, definitely pay attention to what you guys are putting in their bodies, because every single little thing that you do ends up really making a big difference in the long run and in the big picture of things, in the big scheme of things. So, all right, before I get going on a tangent again, I'm going to wrap up the video, but I just want to say one more thing. If you are new to cooking or feeling like you just aren't that good at it, just don't give up, because honestly, practice makes perfect, especially when it comes to cooking. Nobody just knows how to cook. Everybody has to learn. Everybody has to have trial and error. And that is what cooking is about. It's just about coming up with new ideas, trying new things out. Sometimes they don't work, sometimes they do, and just kind of trying things until you come up with something that you feel is perfect. And the only way that you can do that is by practicing and trying. So giving up is definitely the worst thing that you can do. Anybody can cook, everyone has to eat, and so it's just a really good thing to learn how to do. And knowing how to use all of these spices and seasonings and things is going to take your cooking to the next level. I promise you that. So if you guys have not had a chance to subscribe to the channel, please hit that subscribe button before you go. Ring the notifications bell, because that will let you guys know every time I upload a new video, which is 4 times a week. I do share a lot of different kid-friendly recipes. I have 3 kids myself, and I am all too familiar with picky kids and having a difficult time feeding your kids and things like that. I like to share a lot of copycat recipes for different fast food restaurants, different restaurants in general. And so those can be really fun things to create at home with your kids. And don't forget to leave a comment for me so I know, if you guys have other things that you want to see, other videos that you want to see, different recipes that you guys want me to try out, or if you have anything that any advice or anything for me, I'd love to hear the feedback, and let me know what some of your guys' favorite spices to use are. And you guys, thank you so much for watching, and much love to all of you, and happy cooking. Good luck in your kitchens, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.